The Rural Futures Institute is a system-wide effort from the University of Nebraska. This week, the university held a conference in Lincoln designed to bring together local, state, national, and international stakeholders interested in the future of rural America. We talked with University of Nebraska Vice President and IANR Harlan Vice Chancellor Ronnie Green on the opening night of the conference about the Institute and what role agriculture plays in planning for the future.
We've been talking at the university now for a little over a year about how we take what we have been doing related to what I'd call rural development. We have had a rural initiative at the university for about the last 10 years. And thinking about whether that's enough, whether we should be doing more, whether we should be looking more comprehensively at the issue of changing rural demographics long term. And what's come out of that discussion is the idea that we're considering forming a new institute across the whole university system, all of our campuses involved, that focuses on what the long-term rural outlook might need to look like. And is that long-term rural outlook the same as what we've thought about in the past, which is kind of couched in the way that the landscape was settled after the Homestead Act and the way towns were distributed. Thinking of in Nebraska, for example, how towns followed the railroads and the river and later the highway system. What is that long-term sustainable, or is there a different model out there that we might be thinking about long-term? So this institute has as its focus, can the university bring together people across disciplines, whether that be in healthcare, or whether that be in education, or whether that be in extension in agriculture, or whether that be in the legal industry, or in finance and banking and the finance industries. Can we bring those groups together in a way that focus on what does all of that mean long-term for young people to want to come back to rural communities, and for those to look sustainable in the long term. So that's the idea of this new institute.
What role does agriculture play in that? Certainly, this show is geared towards agriculture, but I think those in rural communities also know that it's not the only thing. What role do you see agriculture playing in this?
Well, if you think historically, we've always thought, for a long time, let's say, we thought rural and agriculture were hand in hand. They were the same thing. So a rural community was based around farming or ranching or the ag production industry. That's still largely true, and it'll still, I think, be largely true for the long term. But if we're successful in the university, and a lot of the things that you talk about on Market Journal on a weekly basis are things that we're doing to continue to innovate agriculture, to continue to apply new technology to livestock production or crop production or biofuels and alternative energy sources production. If we're successful in that, and the research we do matters, and we translate that into new technology, we're going to continue to see agriculture change, right? So we're going to continue to see maybe fewer people involved in production agriculture and larger scale units, just like we've seen for decades that development occur. So agriculture will always be there. It'll always be central because it's land-based, right? But in order for it to be sustainable and long-term successful, you have to have other infrastructure around the people that are still engaged in production agriculture for rural landscapes to be healthy and to be successful. So that's what this is really about in this discussion.
For people in rural areas, what can they do to help?
Well, we're here at this conference the next couple of days, and we had great discussion here in the opening of it tonight, listening to young people who are engaged back in rural communities, talking about what will those need to look like for them to want to be there, for them to see them as successful and sustainable. And they talked a lot about community and place and the desire to be in a place and to be across generations in a way that you don't always get in an urban environment even. So that's one element of it. So people in rural places, people in rural communities, I think we're talking about a re-engaged leadership, about really having a commitment to what the long-term future can look like, which requires you, of course, to maybe give up a little bit of what the past has been. Every town's not going to survive. The question is, does every town need to survive? there's some of those kind of hard questions that we have to address in thinking about, for this given area, what does that area look like 50 years from now?
Let me ask you this to close out. What is success in your mind? And obviously it's an ambitious goal. It's a long-term goal, I'm sure. What is success for this institute?
I think success is that through a different way of approaching the land-grant mission. And that's part of what we're talking about here. This is a different way of approaching what we've thought of as our traditional land-grant mission. That we would see rural landscapes that would grow in population, that would become younger in median age, that would have economic health and prosperity in those communities, including built around agriculture and natural resource use, so that compared to where we are today, that we feel like that we turned the corner on rural landscape sustainability instead of kind of feeling like, what do we do to survive?